No, it's not even good for relationship. Sometimes, some people say stupid things. You meet some people that
You want some help? Why are you? Good job. Thank you.
But Columbus police say they found the mother and her 2 young children dead inside that apartment.
It brought me to tears.
Neighbors sat with tears in their eyes, learning the news that a mother and her 2 young children were all found dead inside this apartment.
Like every time I got around, she was always a happy person. And she always talked about her kids. She loved her kids.
So there's so many tentacles and web that extends out on this, where there's so many people that are affected and involved in this, that it's just, I mean, there's really not much more I can say other than, our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone involved in this tragedy.
"25-year-old Journey Fletcher was a devoted and passionate traveling hairstylist, known for her exceptional work and dedication to her clients. She often traveled between cities, bringing her vibrant energy and creativity to those who relied on her skills. Journey's love for her children was undeniable, and she had recently welcomed a baby girl into the world. She was determined to build a future that would ensure a secure and loving environment for her family. But then, without warning, Journey and her children disappeared. Friends, family, and clients were all left in a state of confusion and concern. The sudden silence was eerie, and the growing worry turned into heartbreak when it was discovered that Journey and her children would never be seen or heard from again. Around 11 a.m. on August 29th, Columbus police were called to a unit at the Broadmoor apartment complex in East Columbus after a concerned neighbor requested a welfare check due to a foul odor coming from inside. Upon entering the apartment, officers discovered a heartbreaking scene: an unresponsive adult female and 2 young children.
First got called here at around 11 this morning. It has at times been emotional in the neighborhood as people have found out what has happened here. The investigation has been going on inside an apartment in the 3300 block of Broadmoor Avenue. Police were first called on a well-being check because neighbors told them they had not seen the people who lived in the apartment for a couple days. According to Sergeant James Fuqua, when officers got inside, they found a woman, a boy 6 to 8 years old, and a baby girl all dead inside. Neighbors tell us this has them in shock and disbelief.
It's going to be hard because we all know, are familiar at least around here, and we kind of look out for each other, a little bit. And our court right there, we like a little family right here, But it's going to be devastating, for everybody.
The victims were identified as 25-year-old Journey Fletcher and her children, 5-year-old Jelani Jennings and 3-month-old Harmony Ajay, who were all sadly pronounced dead at the scene after succumbing to multiple gunshot wounds. The news of their tragic deaths sent shockwaves throughout the community, leaving those who knew and loved them left to grapple with the reality of this unimaginable loss. A firearm was discovered at the scene, but authorities have not yet revealed the cause of death or how long the family has been dead. As the investigation unfolds, police are not currently seeking any suspects, leading to more questions than answers about the circumstances surrounding the deaths.
Neighbors tell us this has them in shock and disbelief.
It's going to be hard because we all know, are familiar at least around here, and we kind of look out for each other, a little bit. And our court right there, we like a little family right here, But it's going to be devastating, for everybody.
Journey's sudden and tragic passing, along with the loss of her 2 young children, has left a void in the hearts of her family, friends, and clients. The hairstylist, again, was known for her creativity, dedication, and the joy she brought to others through her work. She had a bright future ahead, filled with plans and dreams for her children, which were cut short at the blink of an eye. What really transpired inside that apartment? How long had they been dead? It's hard to fathom that no one heard anything. No gunshots, no arguing, nothing. Hopefully, someone comes forward soon with any information that could lead to an arrest. It's chilling to think that someone would not only take Journey's life, but also those of her innocent children. This wasn't just an act of violence. It had to be driven by deep anger or personal vendetta. And given the lack of forced entry, it's possible that the perpetrator was someone Journey knew and trusted. The absence of signs of struggle only deepens the mystery and makes you wonder who could have committed such an unspeakable act. Last week, Columbus police investigated 2 murders and a separate domestic violence homicide. Before today, the city had already seen 14 domestic violence-related deaths this year, compared to 25 in all of last year. Columbus police emphasized that these tragedies impact everyone, the entire community, not just the neighbors or the officers involved. While the details surrounding the deaths of Journey Fletcher and her 2 children remain unclear, several theories have been considered based on the limited information available. It's important to note that these are speculative and should be treated with caution until official findings are released. The first possible theory is murders. The presence of a firearm at the scene could suggest a possible murders where Journey, possibly overwhelmed by stress, postpartum depression, or other factors, may have tragically taken her life and the lives of her children. This theory often arises in cases where no signs of forced entry or external suspects are immediately apparent. Theory number 2 is homicide by an unknown assailant. Another theory could involve an unknown assailant who may have entered the apartment with the intention of committing a violent act. This person could have staged the scene to look like a murder. Although police reportedly aren't looking for suspects, this remains a possibility if more evidence comes to light. Again, these theories are purely speculative, and only a thorough investigation by law enforcement, including autopsies and forensic analysis, will reveal the truth behind this tragic event.
This is one of these things that's not normal. It's not normal for any human being. I don't care if you're the police, I don't care if you're fire. It's not normal to see the loss of life, specifically with multiple victims.
Many people are still reeling after Columbus police found a woman and 2 children dead in an apartment around 11 a.m. Thursday morning after a call for a wellness check. The names of those victims have now been released. The mother, Journey Fletcher, 25, her son, Jaylani Jennings, 5, and her daughter, Harmony AJ, just 3 months old.
Let me be clear about this. Anytime someone loses life, whether it's the east side, west side, any part of the city, it's extremely tragic and unfortunate, and it's one of those things that, specifically with young kids.
Today's events are especially overwhelming for those who knew those involved. Rachel Cole had been friends with Journey Fletcher since 2019. She recalls what her reaction was once she heard this devastating news.
Oh, I was shocked, because I had woke up and I seen the article, but I didn't think nothing of it until my sister texted me and was like, "Is this Journey house?" So I'm calling her. I'm calling her phone. It kept going to voicemail, so I texted her phone, and it never said delivery.
She says a piece of her is now lost forever, but she wants people to know who Journey was as a person and not as a victim.
She was always no matter what she was going through, she never showed that the sad side of her. She was always a happy person. Every time I got around, she was always a happy person. And she always talked about her kids. She loved her kids. So, yeah, that was so shocking to me.
Law enforcement, along with friends and family, are encouraging anyone to come forward with any information leading to an arrest. The case remains ongoing.
On a well-being check, neighbors had said they had not seen what we believe to be a young lady who lived at the residence for a while. Officers arrived on the scene and found a female that was unresponsive, as well as what we believe to be a young 6 to 8 year old boy, as well as an infant little girl. At this time, we don't have very many details beyond that. I can tell you that right now we're not specifically looking into any particular suspects or anybody else out. There was a firearm recovered at the scene, so right now the most important thing is making sure not only the neighbors who called are getting some mental health evaluations and help from us in any way that we can, as well as making sure we get that next of kin notification out as soon as possible, because the last thing we would want is for family of this young lady to find out that she has passed away, publicly without us reaching out. What I can say is there was a firearm observed in the scene. Obviously, if we're seeing integrity, we can't go beyond that right now. So one thing I will say is in the last couple of weeks in our city, unfortunately, we've seen far too many homicides that involve family. So any type of domestic relationship, specifically homicide suicides, which are extremely gut-wrenching and very, very sad to see and to find, because you have so many victims involved in that and so many families that have to carry that trauma on with them. So what we can tell you right now is, although we're not specifically looking for any one person, there may be signs that point to this being an unfortunate situation for this young lady and her kids. I mean, anyone that hears this interview would understand, right? Most of us are all parents, and I can imagine the loss of a child, let alone the loss of a child, potentially the mother, and the mother of the victim. So there's so many tentacles and web that extends out on this, where there's so many people that are affected and involved in this, that it's just, I mean, there's really not much more I can say other than, our thoughts and prayers go out to everyone involved in this tragedy. I'm not aware of anything specific to this address, but let me be clear about this. Anytime someone loses life, whether it's the east side, west side, any part of the city, it's extremely tragic and unfortunate, and it's one of those things that, specifically with young kids, we're talking about what we believe to be an infant and a child under 10 years old. Like, these kids will never see high school. They'll never get a driver's license. They'll never go to prom. They'll never graduate. They won't get the opportunity to enjoy life in the way that we all currently get to do. Well, first and foremost, for the first responders, including fire and the police who see this, we want to make sure that we are taking measures and putting in place mechanisms to make sure that they are mentally okay. Because, again, this is one of these things that's not normal. It's not normal for any human being. I don't care if you're the police. I don't care if you're fire. It's not normal to see the loss of life, specifically with multiple victims and so many victims so young. So we want to make sure that we're taking every precaution for the officers, for CFD, and for all the people in the neighborhood that are going to be affected by this particular situation, because as we put this out publicly, so many people will be affected by that. One thing I would say is always check on your neighbors, right? Even if you don't have a super personal relationship with people, if you haven't seen someone for a couple of days, especially if they have young children, I think it's okay to be a nosy neighbor. And what I mean by that is just a simple well-being check, because you don't know what is going on in someone's life in that moment. That, hey, just a simple knock on the door. How are you feeling? Are you okay? Do you need anything? And I'm not saying in this particular situation that could have prevented whatever happened, but what I do know is we're all human and we all need help, whether it's friends, family, or neighbor, right? We're supposed to love thy neighbor. Just check on people, because that could have potentially helped in this situation. Again, not blaming anyone, not placing fault, but to answer your question specifically, I think it's always good to check on your neighbors, especially in a community like this where it's so many doors to the apartments, that try to get to know everybody as best you can.